Well, given that it is 9:05, we want to make the most of your time today. Know that you have lots of things to do in your buildings and your classrooms. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And glad you're here, first of all. Happy August. It's crazy to think that it's already August the 2nd, like it's just flown by. It's already here. So we're going to start off with an EDU protocol called thin slides. So what we had you do in this past, the assignment for this past week was to read through the last section of the book, 133 to the end. I think that was the page. It was all of the tools to add to your tool belt and add power and all of that. Okay, so what we'd like for you to do, and I'm going to share my screen. Gonna paste a link in the chat. Here we go. Done. Copy link. Done. Paste a link in the chat. That way we y'all have access to this. So thin slides. This is a protocol that is supposed to be short and sweet and simple. Excuse me. And so the idea behind it is that you pick a slide, add your name to it. You add one word or phrase to describe the topic or the category or a question that is presented, and then one image to go along with it. Okay. And so after the thin slide, after we give you some time to complete your slide, we will present those. And what makes them thin not only is the one word or phrase or the image, but the time that you have to share your thought or idea. All right. So ordinarily in the classroom in a face-to-face setting, once all of your students have completed their slide and they're ready to go, you would publish the slide deck to the web, and we'll do all of this together too. You'll publish it to the web and have it advance. Each slide advance automatically after 20 seconds or so. So students have to be on the ready. They have to have their ideas, their thoughts collected to share out whatever it is that they have written on their slide. And of course, it can't be this long spiel. They have to have very precise and accurate words so that they can, fill up that time frame, but also not carry over and go beyond that. So we're going to do that too. But instead of 20 seconds, we'll give a little bit more time because with a Google Meet, it does take a little bit more time to unmute or to, because we're all in different places. It just takes a little bit more time. So we'll set the time for 30 or 40 seconds after we finish up. All right. So your topic for today, first off, has everybody been able to get in? Everybody on? Good. I see some head nods. Ashley's put it in again for those who just joined. All right. So your topic for today, the question I want you to think about and add one word or phrase and one image. Think about the tools that you read about in this section of the book, this last final section of the Infused classroom. Think about that. Which of those tools are you going to add to your tool belt? Think about one. Which of those are you going to add to your tool belt and try to implement the beginning of this school year? Maybe the first 9 weeks, this first semester. Add your phrase of how you want to use it, and then an image that represents that. Does that make sense? Any questions before we set on our ways? Charlotte, did you get that? Did you catch all of those instructions? Ashley dropped the link into the chat.
Yeah,
all right, so
I've got it open. Thank you.
All right, cool. Good deal. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll spend just a couple of minutes. Make sure you add your name to the bottom of your slide that you pick, and we'll spend just a few minutes. And I'll kind of come back and touch base once I see that most people are finishing up. All right. How are we doing on time? Give me a thumbs up if you're good to go. If you need more time, just let me know. Shelly needs some more time. No problem. This is one of those activities that students who are more anxiety prone with time limits could potentially trigger them a little bit. But that's, why on the front end, if you preface it with make sure that you have clear and concise thoughts. If you need to write them down, that way when it's their turn to present, share out, that anxiety is not so great.
I'm good now if I was the only one you were waiting on. Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I am not totally sure that you were the last one. So if anybody else needs more time, just give me a holler. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and publish this to the web and we'll get rolling. Charlotte and Christine are doing partner work. I love it. I love it. All right. So I'm going to walk you through the process of publishing this to the web, just so you know what it looks like if you've never done that before. So once your slide deck, all of your students have contributed and collaborated on this slide deck, we're going to go to File and then down towards the bottom, Publish to the web. Okay. And so then auto advance the slides. We're going to change this to every 30 seconds. Okay. And then we'll click publish. All right. Am I sure I want to publish this? Yes. All right. So now copying the link. I'm going to paste this in here. And before I do that, just so that we are all ready to go, if you are in a position to where you can unmute, that way you are ready to share your slide when your slide pops up. Go ahead and unmute. If you are in a noisier place, Shelly, if you're like, with all the girls practicing, just be on the ready to unmute when your slide comes up, okay? All right, so let's run through this.
Okay, I did hyperdoc.
Oops, sorry. Yeah, Christine, you may have to mute yours.
Okay, I did hyperdocs. My phrase was self-paced learning, and the image that I use just has like why I use hyperdocs, and then a bunch of reasons.
Love it. Very good. All right, hopefully it'll advance. There we go.
So I chose Google Keep. Lots of my kids, the image I chose, that's what their binder looks like. So I think it's a great idea. It looks to be like an app, and you can scan your notes or homework as you go, and it'll save it into your phone. So that way, when I tell them to pull it out to study, if they need to pull out their phone because they've lost those notes or they left them at home or whatever the case may be, they have it right there at the ready. And it's free.
And it's free. Yes. Love Google Keep.
Okay, so I did book creator because ELA teachers are always looking for ways that our students can share out all of their writing to more audiences. And book creator really makes it more authentic because it looks like a book. You can turn the pages and all of that. And I think that the kids would like that better than just turning in a paper or an essay. It gets the blue ribbon because I think it's probably one of my favorites that I saw. So definitely wins the blue ribbon with me.
Awesome.
I did Adobe Spark, and my word was creativity, and I picked the image with the light bulb for, they're just going to be being very creative with their video responses and all the other types of things that Adobe Spark has. I plan to use this a lot in my classroom this year.
Very cool. Awesome.
Hey, so I chose Socrative, and it was kind of a toss-up between formative and Socrative, and I'm still going back and forth. But we don't have IXL in science, and so having something that I can use to track formative assessment data and student growth over time is definitely helpful. And so looking at the paid version of Socrative, that would probably, it looks like it has all the features that I would need. So that may be a PO I'm writing next week.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good.
All right, and this is perfect to follow behind quizzes. That's actual, the image I used was like actual live footage when I would tell my students that we're going to do a quizzes game, like they did that. It never got old. It's gamified learning, but it's also great for data collection. And I did use this data to form my tier 2 groups or to be able to, talk in an IEP meeting, PST meeting, whatever, about student growth. You can do teacher-led or student-paced. And so it just gives you lots of options. And that's all within the free version. I never had the paid version, but the paid version is even more incredible. So love quizzes.
Oh, I like the Genially. I thought it would be a very good way to kind of either, for me to create infographics for my students or for even them, because we usually have I usually give them at least one of the levels of culture kind of unit to do on their own as well. And I thought it'd be another way for them to be able to present that information to the class and to share as well. So I really, I liked some of the other ones as well, but I thought that one was a really good one.
Yes, Genially is kind of a hidden gem with everything that it can do. You're kind of limited with the free version, but it's another really cool one.
I chose Pear Deck because it's one that I don't ever think to use anymore, and I really like it. And so my word is insightful because it already has slides built in that you can just pull into your slide deck that gives you insight into your students, whether it's SEL or it's your ESL students, or it's, how are they feeling about what they were learning, as well as they can add to it like KWL kind of things. And so that's why I like it, but I kind of forget to use it. And then that's my image, because I just think it adds so much to your activities and what you're doing with your students through Google Slides. So that's kind of how I feel when I do use it. So it's going to be on my list to try to use a little bit more this year.
I love your pear, Tracy.
Thank you.
So cute.
I thought it was cute.
All right, and that is it. So, what do you think? What do you think about? What do you think about that activity? How could you see this activity being implemented, thin slides, into your classroom with your students? Given the grade level that you teach, given the content area that you teach, how could you see this being implemented? And what do you think?
I teach high school math, and so at the beginning of every year, not the past few years because of COVID, but I give them a lunch bag and they have to decorate the outside of it and put like 3 things in it that describe them. And so they have to present that because they're new to me. I don't know them. So it just kind of gets us started, and it's an easy grade and, for them at the beginning of the year and things like that. But this would be a way to do it digitally instead of kids having to bring things from home. And it would make sure that I stayed on time and they didn't get 10 minutes to explain all their items in the bag. It could be I could set that to the 1 minute and they have 1 minute to explain everything on their slide. So I really like that.
Yeah, I love that.
I think for ELA, they could do, if we were doing like character analysis, they could do characters and have one word that really describes that character's personality and an image that would go along with that character. And then different students would have different characters, and then we could share those slides and see kind of why different people thought different characters had different characteristics. So
Definitely. The thing about thin slides is that, sometimes when you do classroom presentations, they can take up the entire class period. The presentation lasts 10 minutes plus, and when you're trying to get every student in or every group in to present, it just takes so long, sometimes multiple class periods. And so this is a way to speed that up, to still get the quality information in that the students that you want your students to be able to share, but in a much shorter time frame. And obviously we didn't take up the entire 30 seconds that I gave you, which is totally fine in this case. And the topic that we were presenting on, didn't totally lend itself to filling up that 30-second time slot. So with whatever prompt or question or topic that you share with your students, encourage them to obviously not go over that time limit, but also to fill it as much as they can. So you don't want them to share 5 seconds worth and just be standing there until the next slide advances. Fill that time, encourage them to get all of their thoughts out in that 30-second, 20-second time frame. Okay.
And it's
So,
amazing too how long 30 seconds really is, because Matt and Ashley and I, when we were planning this, we were like, we don't think 20 seconds is long enough. Let's do 30 seconds so that everyone has time. And that really, 30 seconds really was more than enough time. So that's also hard too, to realize how much time do I have and what do I need to say to fill it.
Yeah. We were going off of experiences from last year. We did 20 seconds and nobody was unmuted, and we ran out of time for each slide. So we tried to compensate this year, and obviously we did much better with that.
All right, so thinking about everything that you read and learned about in this book, and we're going to kind of wrap back to something at the beginning of the book, kind of page 12-ish, 12, 13, 14. How can you shift, thinking about starting this school year and your students, how can you shift your students from being digitally literate to digitally fluent? And those pages starting in 12, that's why I just referenced those on 12, was kind of the shift from digital literacy to digital fluency. So that's why I just referenced back to those. But just thinking about everything that we've talked about, things that you've read, how do you see this playing out in your classroom, and what can you do? Conversations that you can have, experiences, what do you think that looks like? How can you shift your students from being digitally literate to digitally fluent?
I think right there. Sorry, that's the problem being in the same room.
Partner work,
For
though.
me, I think exposing them to the all the different programs or tools or apps or websites that I think that they're capable of using, and giving them some time to explore them and modeling that for them. And then in my head, like later on in the year, okay, guys, all these different, Flipgrid, Google Sites, Google Slides, giving them a project or an assignment and letting them choose, like they know they've had exposure and been able to explore it, things like that. But let and say, this is what we need to get done. Choose what the best format for that is digitally, if that makes sense. Kind of like they know the why that we use Flipgrid or the why that we use Google Sites and which would be the best choice for this goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. We have to start, especially at the elementary level too, but with all of our kids, giving them the opportunity to just interact and use all of those different tools so that they know, like Charlotte said, when it's time for a project or an activity or whatever it is, which one is going to be the best one to reach my outcome and my goal of what I'm trying to do. So love that.
I think too, something that comes to mind often is giving the students like those environments. Like a lot of times we want to shut off the comments on Google Classroom, or we want to, you know, prevent them from being able to do the chat feature or whatever it may be. And you know your kids best. And so you know what's best for them, but providing them that opportunity in class so that they do have a safe environment to learn to make good choices and to learn the appropriateness and communicating online and that type of thing. So I think that's kind of a mind shift, because for so long we heard, don't turn on comments, don't allow them to chat. I think it's just they need those directed, explicit conversations and guidance as to how to do that appropriately. And we can't think they're getting that at home, unfortunately, because they're probably not. Maybe some of them are. And so I think that's a big part to this, is just allowing them and letting them make some mistakes. I mean, they're going to make mistakes, you know, when it comes time to make those decisions, but just allowing your classroom to be that safe environment for that learning and those mistakes, because you can give them that guidance and conversation that they need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Welcome, Rachel. We're talking about how can we shift our students from being digitally literate to digitally fluent. So we're just kind of having a conversation about that as we start this new school year, and what does that look like in our classroom.
Well, another thing besides the students just being able to explore with it and then, you know, start to gain ownership, is that if they don't see me using the tools, I'm just telling them to use the tools all the time, then that's going to be a hindrance for them. So I think in my presentations and in the way that I present information to them, I need to be using as many of these as I can so that they can see practical uses of them, so that they will know when they can choose which one works best with what kind of presentations and things.
Absolutely. Good point, Kelly. Because we do, I think, I'll speak for myself. I kind of get zeroed in on just a few. That's why I picked Pear Deck when we were talking about it, because I love it, but I just don't ever think to use it. And so I want to make that a goal for myself. So same thing. We all have our favorites or the easy ones, or my quick go-tos, which are great for students too. But if we're having our students all leave us only using Google Slides for everything, well, have we really done them the, you know, a service? No, we haven't. You know, we've got to get them ready for what life outside of Shelby County Schools looks like in the workplace in their world. So yeah, I think that's really important for us to model and use as many as possible. And also I think too, that conversation of, oh, you know what, I thought we were going to be doing this, but I realized once I got into it that wasn't going to be the best way for us to do this project, or it wasn't going to be the best way for you to turn this assignment in or whatever. And just having those real conversations about our thought process. You know, we talk to our kids about reading is thinking, and always thinking about our reading and being able to talk about like what's going on in our head. The same thing there, like why did I go down this path but then pull away from it? And why did I as a teacher choose this particular tool to use, and how could you use it as a student? So having those conversations.
I also think it's important to recognize your comfort level too with all of the things, because there are so many different tools and resources and platforms out there. And while yes, it's really important that we want to expose our students to, you know, as many of these things as possible, your comfort level and your knowledge and your ability also is important to think about and recognize too, because that can become overwhelming super fast and super easy. So, while yes, we want them to have the exposure, just know in your mind, you don't, the exposure doesn't have to take place, all in the first 9 weeks, spread it out, space it out. That way you are taking on, because you've got, y'all know, you've got tons of other things that take place throughout the school day too. And feeling like there's a pressure to have all of these things exposed to your students can become really heavy and really overwhelming and feel like a burden rather than energizing. So just think about you and yourself, your comfort level in implementation, so that you can get the exposure that the students need, but also aren't like completely swamping yourself in all of that too. All right. Well, kind of continuing on the same frame of mind, shifting students from being digitally literate to digitally fluent, we as the teachers have to be strong in our digital pedagogy. So, of course, we have our pedagogy with our instructional practices, but what does that mean? What does that phrase digital pedagogy mean to you? I have we're going to do a word cloud real quick with one of the tools that I think was mentioned in the book, Poll Everywhere. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat, and then I'll share my screen once I have that. Okay. So there's the chat. Join in and share. Write one word, one phrase. You can add in several times if you need to, about what digital pedagogy, or what does it mean to be a digital pedagogist to you. So click on the link there, type in pollev.com/mwilson508. Mm. And feel free to add in more than one, whatever comes to your mind that means being a digital pedagogist. Lots of good ones coming in. All right, as those continue coming in, would any of you like to share about what you wrote, or what you see that speaks to you and kind of really speaks to what a digital pedagogist is?
Matt, I'll speak up. So as far as thinking about this, I just think that, we have to be rooted and grounded in our pedagogy about the best way that students learn, and realize that technology is there for that meaningful integration. We have to be able to identify and know, like, what is the best tool? Is it best for my students to use this technology? Is it enhancing their learning experience? And so I think, like, being a digital pedagogist is when we're taking, that academic type pedagogy about you know, for example, if you're in the elementary world, learning all about like the science of reading and all of that that's going on, and then thinking about what digital tools can I then pair to enhance and amplify that learning for students. And so I just think that, you know, yeah, all of that combined.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I think about infusing it into what we're doing. So kind of to bounce off of what Ashley said and what Matt, you shared earlier, like not having or feeling like we have to have all 30 tools underneath our belt and having our students using all of those, but really thinking about what are the best tools that we're using and how are we using that technology in our classroom, and are we truly infusing it, or are we just doing it to do it and then it becomes one more thing. But really thinking about that innovation and just changing just a little something, and maybe that little something is the digital part to it, so that it truly is something that is kind of second nature in our classroom, and that we're having our students use it in different ways, different digital tools, and that we're using them the same way. And so it's not just, oh, I've got to use technology, but it's more, how is it, back to what Ashley said, how is it enhancing and amplifying what I'm doing in the classroom and my students too as well.
Yes, Tracy, exactly. And also just like realizing that it's okay to not always use technology. I mean, sometimes there's, you know, and that's being a digital pedagogist, like knowing that, hey, this is a tool. And so there's other tools that have nothing to do with the tech, you know, related thing. And so that's okay too, to use that. And so find rest in that, knowing that like you don't have to always be using the tech tools. So
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. The two words that stand out to me here are intentionally or intentionality, and innovative. That goes along, the intentionality goes along with what both of you have said, Ashley and Tracy, of being intentional with the tool that is used to enhance and amplify the instruction. And then the innovative, and this is something that we have spoken to several times over the last couple of years. You know, oftentimes the word innovative means thinking of something brand new, being creative, thinking something outside of the box that is brand new. But it can also mean taking something that has been used over and over again and putting a new spin on it, doing something different with something that has been done the same way for a long time. And so that's kind of like what we're doing with our analog to digital ideas. We're taking something that we have typically done analog, and we're putting a new spin on it. We're being innovative and transferring that, shifting it to making it digital. So I think both of those speak very well and clearly to what it means to be a digital pedagogist. Any other thoughts? All right. Let's see.
all righty. Well, if there are no more thoughts on that, I know that's a lot to digest, thinking about digital pedagogist or sorry, Holly Clark always calls it digital pedagogist. And so I always, question back and forth, like which way? Anyway, so we're going to move into kind of like looking at what does this entire book study look like for this upcoming school year. So we've spent the summer diving into this, the application. And so we really want you all to think small. I heard once somebody said, I haven't done a lot of great big things in my life. I've set a lot of small goals and reached them. And so that setting those small goals is a big deal. And so we want you to think about just first 9 weeks and what tool or what strategy or something from the book do you want to implement in your classroom just the first 9 weeks? And we want you just to focus in on that one thing. And so what we've done is we've provided a sticky note in your analog to digital slide deck that you already have, and I'm going to drop the link in here just for easy access. And there's a sticky note on there that says first 9 weeks goal. And we want you all to think about that and type in a goal. And we would also like to kind of follow up with you or stay in touch with you on how is this going? What can we do to support you? Maybe you reach the goal super quick, and so you maybe want to set another goal. So we just kind of, it'll allow us to kind of be a part of your journey too with implementing what you've learned through this book study into your classroom this year. So if everybody, I'm going to share my screen real quick. And if you want to head over to your sticky note and just think about first 9 weeks and add something in there for your goal. And also, if you want to just jot, if on that first 9 weeks goal, there's something that you need from us, maybe there's something we can do to support you in reaching that goal. If you'll just make a little note on there, we would love to connect with you and support or help you in any way. You guys are pretty awesome rock stars. I'm very sure of that. So you may not need us at all, but if you do, just leave a little note there, and that way we know to reach out to you. How are we doing on time? You guys need maybe another minute? Is anybody ready to move on? Thumbs up. Okay. Would anybody like to share? I mean, your goal can be, you can keep that private, but would anybody like to share? Because I do think there's power in just speaking our goal and making that known to other people. And so does anyone want to share their goal for first 9 weeks?
I'll go. One of the things that I've wanted to do for a while now is to make my lab safety review and classroom procedures kind of more of a self-guided thing, more like an inquiry or scavenger hunt or, something along those lines, and make that digital instead of like a paper scavenger hunt. And so using either Nearpod or Wakelet, being able to kind of take the Google Slides that I already have and rework that, and so that the presentation and assessment are digital.
I love that. And Elizabeth, that's a great example of that's a small, very particular, specific thing. But once you accomplish that goal, you're going to feel so empowered and then on to the next thing. So I love how specific that is. And I feel like the more specific our goal, the more likely we are to attain. So thank you so much for sharing.
I can share as well. I want to focus on not only just the first 9 weeks, but all year on reflecting on my students' learning. So often, like I would teach a lesson, and then we kind of put that aside. But in history, 30 years later, we get to another topic, and I need to remind them of what we talked about and making those connections. So I feel like if I use flip and that kind of thing, I can kind of remind them, instead of me reminding them, I can have them go back and watch the reflections from earlier or listen to the reflections from earlier to help them make those connections on their own, instead of me just kind of giving them broad questions and then fill in the blanks. So I want to focus on reflecting and then using those reflections.
That's awesome. I love that. And that sounds so fitting for a history class, like going back in their own history, reflecting on what they've learned and making those connections. That's awesome, Rachel. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share their goal?
I want to use Flipgrid for my number talks and get the students to record their thinking and their strategies, and then have them present it to the class.
Love that. Love number talks. That's a really powerful thing. That's awesome, Christine. How often do you do number talks? Just curious.
Every day.
Every day. Okay. All right.
I just think that might streamline it. I might be able to share more of their thinking if I give them some time to do that during the workshop, and then, present 3 or 4 of them versus just having 1 or 2 kids come up to the board and actually show us their thinking.
Oh,
Speed things up.
Yes. And when students have to actually talk about their learning or the way that they thought about the numbers, that takes it to a whole nother level of, mastery.
We could even get a partner to film them.
Yes.
Like if they're, drawing, on the board, or if they're drawing at their desk.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know they're supposed to be able to do it orally, but when we start getting into those bigger numbers, a lot of them are going to need to use manipulatives or be drawing it. So it'd be great for someone to video that, and share it with the class.
For sure. And they always get more excited anyway when peers are involved. They have someone to really perform for, or whatever, like when they're doing their videos. So that's an awesome idea. I love that. Anyone else want to share? These are so incredible. I love these goals. All right. Well, just to kind of end this session, first of all, thank you so much for being here with us this summer. We've really enjoyed it, and it always inspires us when teachers choose and make that choice to spend part of their summer learning. So thank you so much. And we're here for you anytime, all the time. And I'm going to drop the link to our coaching form in the chat. So just remember that you can send us an email, but you can also fill out the form to have us come out for something, anything, and also share with your school and remind them that we are here for any of their tech integration needs, anything that you may need with your panels. So just let us know. And Tracy, Matt, would you guys like to hop on and say anything?
I'll just echo what Ashley said. We've really enjoyed our time with you this summer. It has been super inspirational to us. We leave every Tuesday or Monday of last week just talking about it, and just it energizes us for what we know is happening out in the county K-12, and to know that we've got you guys out in buildings, and just the incredible work that you do. So just thank you for spending your summer with us.
Yeah, it's this has been one of the most fulfilling book studies that I've been a part of. There's just so much really, really good stuff in here. And the conversation that we've had has been so meaningful and so impactful. I hope that what we have talked about, the things that we have done, are things that you can carry back, transfer back into your classroom and share with your co-teachers too. So, so grateful for all of you for spending the time to learn and to be with others, other like-minded folks, and just to learn more. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, have a good last few days of your summer. We'll see you next week at Ignite.
Yeah.
And we hope you have a great start to your school year.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
So much.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Yes,
You're
of course.
welcome.
Thank you, Elizabeth.